Hello, and welcome to FFYF's First 5 Questions series, where I am fortunate to talk to experts, champions, and leaders about the realities of childcare in the United States today. My name is Sarah Rittling, and I'm the Executive Director of the First 5 Years Fund, a bipartisan advocacy organization working to sustain and expand federal support for childcare and early learning. We're joined today by two fantastic congressional child care champions as co-sponsors of the Promoting Affordable Child Care for Everyone, or as we refer to it, the PACE Act, a bipartisan bill to update important tax provisions that help more parents afford the child care they need. Specifically, the PACE Act modernizes two tax credits, the Child Care Independent Tax Credit, or CDCTC, which just rolls right off the tongue, which goes directly to parents to offset the cost of care, and the dependent care flexible spend accounts, which are similar to your health savings, and allow parents to set aside a small amount of their paycheck to pay for their child care expenses. You'll hear more about that, plus why childcare is so important for families in their districts from our two incredible guests. We are joined by Congresswoman Claudia Tenney of New York, who during her time in Congress has worked to improve access to affordable and high quality care for working families, and Congressman Brad Schneider of Illinois, who has made addressing childcare challenges for families and children a top legislative priority. Welcome to both of you. We're so excited you could join us today, and we're going to jump right in with question number 1. As busy members of Congress, of all the issues that could be involved in why childcare, why is this issue important to you personally? Congressman Schneider, we're going to start with you.
Great. Well, thank you, and thank you for having me. And I'm proud and proud to work with my colleague Claudia Tenney on trying to advance affordability for families. One of the most important expenses and oftentimes most burden expenses families have is childcare. And having the confidence to know that your son or daughter, multiple kids, are being taken care of while you're at work, it's critical for our economy, it's critical for our families, but most importantly, it's critical for our children. And as a country, we need to be investing in our kids. They literally are our future. And we know that for so many people in this country, the cost of childcare is an excessive burden on their family budgets. So any way we can look to try to enhance that, whether it's bringing down the cost of care or making care more affordable by using pre-tax dollars, these are things we can do to try to make a difference and help the families make ends meet.
Excellent. Congressman Tenney?
Yes, well, thank you for having me on. It's great to be on with Brad and having a long time friendship with him, and also on this really important issue. So I raised my son as a single parent, but I also took care of my parents who lived across the street. So this isn't just childcare. This bill is about dependent care and caring for a spouse as well. So I think it's really important that we're helping families who are really trying to maintain and keep themselves in the workforce, but also taking care of their families. And for me, I didn't have an option. I had to have childcare. And both my ex-husband and I at the time, we worked. And then when I was divorced, I didn't have an option. And it was always so expensive to find a childcare option. And, even you're always weighing, the concern about making sure you have affordable childcare, but also some place where your, precious son or daughter or multiple kids in some cases are going where they're going to get good care. They're going to get access to some kind of maybe a learning environment where they're going to be at a daycare program as they get a little older, almost like a nursery school. And so having the option to be able to take advantage of this on the tax level, I think is really important. I didn't have this advantage when I was young and raising my son. I think it would have been terrific to have this opportunity to be able to know that I had a place where I could at least find some affordability. And also, like what every parent fears is what's going to happen when you get home? Is your child safe? Did they get injured? What happened at daycare? And so those are things that if you have to work, we want to make sure you get that option. And when, women have the choice now, you don't have to stay at home. You can go to work. Men have the option. They can, stay at home or go to work. But I love the opportunity they got to go to work. I think it was great for my son and it was great for him. It's funny because both Brad and I have children that are serving in our military. So I think it does work. It's a good thing to have independence and and to work with people. And it is a bit of a risk. And I'd like to reduce the risk and the cost to people so they know they have safe, affordable childcare while they're out working and growing their own personal, wealth and their own personal, careers.
We hear a lot about peace of mind and what having options that you can take advantage of mean for families. And so I think you really nailed that. You also highlight what it means to be in some sandwich generation and having to care for your little ones as well as those who took care of you. And of course, the PACE Act does address both of those things. We're going to stick with you, Congresswoman Tenney, and just anything else you want to add about the importance of this bill and what it could mean if you were able to move it forward.
Yeah, well, I think it's, first of all, it gives flexibility. So it gives families the option to get a little bit of a breather with inflation and some of the things that are happening in the cost of living out there right now. I think it gives families another option and obviously a tax credit or tax benefit, through this means of using the PACE Act. Plus, we increased the numbers that you can get in terms of how I think it's been 5,000 to 7,500, I believe. And so that little bit, it's expensive, and so it accounts for the changes in the economic situation that we're in. But again, I would just, the other thing I would add is that I did take care of my parents across the street, and I paid for a lot of things. Although they had, my dad had a retirement account. I had to pay for a lot of it just to get, we didn't want to put my dad in a nursing home or assisted living facility because he was blind and in a wheelchair. And we just wanted him to have the best quality of life that he could have being home. And it would have been nice to have something like this for my income at the time, or even for my mom. And she ended up getting sick as well. So these are options that we're giving families who really want to care for their loved ones, who want to give them a better quality of life. And it's proven that compassionate care will actually prolong the life of someone who is struggling, and also makes them happier. And it makes everyone happier and more comforted when you know that you can care for someone, and you know that you see them and you know what's happening. And I think so many people don't have that option. I think this bill gives a little more of an option and a little bit more of a benefit to people who do find themselves, like I did, in the so-called sandwich generation.
Congressman Schneider, anything you want to add about the importance of this bill and hopefully seeing it and what it would mean?
Yeah, as Claudia talked about, the burden on families, and in particular single parents. A single parent with 2 kids might be paying as much as $500 a week for daycare over the course of the year. That's more than $25,000 a year, and these are after-tax dollars. So that is someone who is earning $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year is seeing a huge portion of their income going to daycare, making it almost impossible to even afford to go to work. So trying to move some of this into pre-tax dollars, trying to bring the costs down, all making affordable childcare more accessible and allowing people to get into their career. And then it has even a long-term effect, because those young people who have young families, they're able to continue to stay in the workforce, get the skills and lessons of those working years. Their prospects for success later on, as their kids are older, they go to school so they can work with less time demands on the family. They can have their careers and provide better for their children into their later years as well.
Absolutely. Question 3. I often make the case that it's not all that complicated when you're articulating the problem. There's not enough of it, and the options that there aren't enough options available to families, and the options that are available are expensive for a host of reasons. But the truth is, it actually can be complicated, and you're taking a really big step in trying to address a real problem with a real solution. And so on the flip side, though, we know we're talking a lot about how we're able to afford it and the options there and providing that peace of mind. But we know that there's a supply issue as well in the workforce, our economy, and the difficulty in finding and keeping qualified providers and teachers. So I know you're probably reading about it at home, and I know Congressman Schneider, you just recently came from a visit. Anything you want to add in terms of both the workforce side as well as your own experience with your constituents at home in your districts?
Sure, and it's a really important question because it's not just a matter on the demand side. We have people with young children who need childcare. Is you need to have the supply side. You need workers, and we have a shortage of workers in every industry in this country. It's not a visit. I don't have a visit to a company in my district. They're not talking about the challenge they have in getting workers. But in particular in education and especially early childhood education, it's a hard job. It's a demanding job. It is long hours and it's comparatively low pay. And so for all of those reasons, it makes it harder to attract and retain quality educators, quality caregivers. And everyone wants for their children the best possible caregivers. So the more money we can invest in childcare, creating career opportunities and advancement opportunities for these caregivers and early childhood educators, the better we're going to serve our children and ultimately our nation. So that's why I think this and other things we're working on to invest in childcare and invest in the people who are providing that care makes a whole lot of sense. And I think that's why you can see broad support for doing just that.
Thanks. Congresswoman Tenney, anything you want to add in terms of what you're hearing back home and the experience of your constituents on either end, workforce?
Oh, yeah. Well, this is still a big problem. And my district, I don't know how similar my district is to Brad's, but my district is really large and very rural, some suburban areas, some small cities, but it's mostly composed of small businesses. So we don't have a whole lot of big players unless it's a school district or, you know, a government agency. So many people don't have options. And that's one of the problems that we faced with our small business is, you know, we wanted to do everything we could to make sure we get our employees to come back to work when they have children. And we provided some of those options through our healthcare plan and some of our benefits, you know, to get a child care deduction and all those things. It's great that we've got this back now and hopefully we'll get this passed and this option is out there. But you know, we do worry about the peace of mind. I mean, I know I used to be really nervous and I didn't have a lot of options and some people don't. And I was on a waiting list when my son was born. I mean, I was on the waiting list before he was even born. And then we got in and we found out about a month before, I think it was a couple of weeks before he was born, because he was late, that the person that was supposed to do the childcare couldn't do it. And so then we had to scramble and I had to find a place to get my son, you know, to be in. And it was not easy to find people that would do that. And we did finally find, you know, a daycare center that was part of a school of nursing where they had, you know, it was a good program, but I had to wait on a list to get in there too. And we were able to get in after, you know, I didn't go back to work. Actually, I did go back to work within 2 weeks because I was a lawyer, but as far as like full time, and I used to bring him to closings and things with me in his little basket, you know, like it was just like, but, you know, these are not options for everybody. You know, these are, I mean, I was a lawyer, kind of independent in a way. I worked in a firm, but we want to make sure people have options that they can have, as you say, Sarah, the peace of mind. They know that they can get to work and come home and know that they've had a fulfilling day at work and that they can spend good quality time with their children after they've been in a safe environment that they can afford. And so we just want to find ways like this that we can let them then do that. And also, you know, just giving this, making this a worthy job and giving the benefits and giving the ability of people that might want to get into this work, you know, make it worthwhile as a career as well, not just for the parents, but also for the person that, you know, decides to devote themselves to childcare, because you can't just do childcare as a job. It's not like going to McDonald's. I mean, you have to love children, you have to care for people. It's like going to a nursing home. It's like working with seniors. It's working, you know, with, I mean, Brad and I both like people. We like to work in our business. You have to. And you're not going to be successful at it if you don't want to like work with people. And so make it a fulfilling, satisfying job to provide childcare, even to help and assist with you know, seniors and other people who are dependents. You know, I couldn't have taken care of my father. My father had to have a lift. He had, you know, a lot of health issues. We had to hire people, but I did a lot of that myself. It would have been great to have some of the benefits in the paycheck for the amount of money I spend and the amount of time I gave up for my job to be able to do that when there was no opportunity for anything else for me that was really affordable.
Excellent. Question 4, bipartisanship. You are a dynamic duo in leading in a bipartisan way. The issue of childcare and early learning has historically been tremendously bipartisan. I don't think that, people fully capture how members of Congress do truly come together on issues. We tend not to see that as much in reporting or whatever you get your social media. And so drawing attention to the fact that both of you have come together on a real world problem in your districts and in the country and try to work together toward a solution is really meaningful and impactful, and we appreciate that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on bipartisanship and this issue in particular, and I'm going to start with you, Congressman Tenney.
Thank you. Yeah, look, bipartisanship is something that is very alive and well in Washington. And as you cited accurately, it doesn't get talked about because it doesn't create clicks. You can't really monetize it. No one cares. I was like, oh, they're getting along. We don't want to talk about that, especially the media. And but there's a lot of bipartisanship. I mean, Brad and I came in together in our freshman year, and under the current speaker actually started a commitment to civility. And one of those things that we pledged to do was not only work together, but to do bipartisan legislation, find ways that we can find common ground and work together. And it was always been a mission of mine since my first term. And I have the good fortune, as Brad does, to serve on the Ways and Means Committee, where I think it's a tremendous committee. We have fantastic people on both sides who are really earnest about and interested in working together and coming up with bipartisan solutions. And I think that has actually been a lifesaver for many of us in Congress. That's the best thing about the Ways and Means Committee to me, is it is so bipartisan, and you're really tackling issues that affect lives over such a broad jurisdiction of Congress. I mean, almost 70% of the jurisdiction of what we do on the legislative side actually goes through the Ways and Means Committee. And I think that what I love is some of the great members I get to work with on both sides. I've worked with Brad for a long time on other issues, but this is something that I actually worry more about whether my conference can work together. I'm not worried about working with a lot of the Democrats. So that's my little joke for this. But there's some moments where I'm going, boy, I don't know what's going to happen here. But I think that there's a lot of like-minded people, and you always hear, throw them all out, or, there's a lot of really good people that we work with on both sides. And I think they really make it really fun to do the job and fun to find solutions. And we're not as far apart as we think we are. I think once you sit down and you start talking about the real issues, I think you realize that we really do have a lot in common.
Congressman Schneider.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree with Claudia. I've got a lot of thoughts on this. This is a place, if you want to get on TV, if you want to have a big social media following, you can divide Congress into show horses and workhorses. And the show horses are the ones you see on TV. The workhorses are the ones you don't see so much, but they're the ones sitting at the conference tables or in committee hearings, walking across the aisle, talking to colleagues, saying, hey, how do we work on this? How can we find common ground? And I think Claudia and I can give you a good example of that. In some ways, we come from opposite places. Claudia's a Republican, I'm a Democrat. Claudia's district, as she described it, correct me if I don't get it quite right, is mostly rural with a significant share of some suburban and urban towns. Mine is mostly suburban and urban with a significant share of rural. So we can talk about the opposites. But what makes more sense if we're going to work together, let's talk about where there's the overlap, where there's common ground. I think where Claudia and I first found that common ground was talking about our kids. We both have sons. As she mentioned, our sons were in the military. My son, the Navy. Claudia's in the Army.
Marines.
Sorry. But
he went to the Naval Academy, but he's a Marine.
Right. But I think where that bond is, first, the pride we have in our kids, the worry we have for our kids, not because of the military, because it's our job to worry about our kids. That's the nature of being a parent. And the hope we have for our kids' future. And then you start there, the hope for the future. All right, what does that mean? Well, that means we have a growing economy. That means we're trying to make sure everyone has opportunities, and education provides the skills and lessons you need to succeed. And when they graduate and move on into their adulthood, they have chances to provide for their families, have a nice home, quality healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. And when you're there, there's a lot of overlap. So that's what Claudia says, we can have that conversation. Our challenge now is we've got a very narrowly split Congress. I think it's a 1 or 2 vote majority, which means a few of the show horses can gum up the system. But if the workhorses get together, if we keep our nose to the stone and our shoulders to the wheel, we'll get it done.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for doing that and working together. And whether you're from a red state or district or a blue state or district or purple or rural or urban, the fact is that families are trying to care for their children and be able to do what's right for their children and for their families. And it doesn't really matter where you're from or what political party you belong to. So the fact that you've teamed up together to try to address this problem is tremendous, and we appreciate it. Okay, question 5, my favorite question. What gives you hope? I can't remember who we started with last. I think it was Congresswoman Tenney. So we'll go with you.
You got me or Brad?
Oh, sorry, Congressman.
All right. Thank you. What gives me hope? Well, I'll start with our kids, right? That's what gives us hope. You know, we're talking here. My oldest has his birthday on Sunday, so I'm thinking back to when, as Claudia mentioned, that anxiety of right before he was born. He was 2 weeks late as well, and thank God, because we were never ready. We put that 2 weeks to good use in finding care and all the things that we've talked about. And I go and I talk to young kids today. It was mentioned I went to a daycare center last week, and I first classroom I visited was the infants, and we went all the way up through the 5-year-olds, and seeing the bright eyes on these kids. But last week I talked to high school students, to college students, and you see the hope they have. My district, I mentioned it's mostly urban, more suburban, but I have Naval Station Great Lakes. So every young person who enlists in the Navy comes to my district for basic training, and to see those young people who are willing to raise their hands and say, I'm ready to serve our nation, protect our nation, gives me hope. And you see that not just in the folks who are signing up for a military, but just walking around the halls of Congress and all the people who come here to talk about the issues they care about. We have a country of citizens who care about their country and our country's future. And if we can tap into that energy and tap into that power, and we can try to put aside the politics and the partisanship, and as we talked about in the last question, focus on where there's common ground, shared vision, and work for a better future, that gives me hope for our kids, but also those of us who are already raised our kids and looking at our later years.
Congresswoman Tenney.
Yeah, well, thank you. And you know, what gives me hope on this issue is, number one, the chairman of the committee used to be the sponsor of this. So I think that gives us a good opportunity to possibly get this out there and advocacy on it. Sorry, I got a little bit of a cough here. But also the fact that we didn't get our initial tax package done. That was bipartisan. But we're thinking we're going to have another opportunity. And so I'm hoping that could happen. And some initiative like this could be attached. I think it's really important, everyone. I think this is just an issue that deals with families, and I have hope that people will understand it, and it's easy to grasp, and it's kind of, people understand that you know, tax breaks are helpful, and especially pre-tax dollars, and being able to put them away. So I think from that perspective, I think those are good things, and give us hope that this is actually going to potentially be out there, and plus the strong bipartisan support. And I don't know when it would happen. I don't know if it would be before the election or in the lame duck. We don't know. We'll see. But I think I feel positive about it.
That's tremendous to hear. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for your partnership, and a special thanks for introducing the PACE Act. We're eager to help do all we can to fulfill the hope that you have, Congresswoman, to get it across the finish line. So appreciate your time today. Know you're both very busy, and have a great night.
Well, thanks so much, Sarah. Thanks, Brad. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Bye-bye.